Welcome back to Mind Over Movies. I'm Isaac.
And I'm Casey.
Today, we're going to do something a lot different from last week. We're actually going to discuss film.
We thought about it a lot. We had a postmortem talk about the last episode, and we thought, you know what, I think next week we should switch it up a bit, and we should talk
We should get a lot more pretentious this week. The word movie is banned. It's film talk,
it's
baby.
Film.
We're actually changing the name of the podcast. Scratch what you heard.
Mind over film.
Mind over film. It's not as catchy, but it's a bit more highbrow. Anyway, did you watch some films this week, Casey?
Well, let me tell you. If you follow me on Twitter, you know that I binged both seasons of Barry in 24 hours.
God.
So we want to talk about Barry real quick and how it's just probably the best television since Breaking Bad that I've watched.
I think it's the best show on HBO at the very least. Barry's so good. What did you most enjoy about Barry, man?
So Barry is like, there's what I think is so great about the show is that it is like unflinchingly violent and dark, but at the same time so freaking hilarious. Like it's like the very definition of a dark comedy. I will say there are some points though. Season 2 didn't do this as much as season 1 did, in my opinion. But season 1, you know, there's some stuff that happens that is so like dark. You're like, dude, how can we laugh at this show again? Like, once it goes there, you're like, why did you just go there? Because now how's the show going to be funny? But dude, it finds a way, and it kind of like it worries me for a little bit. When I was first watching season 1, I was like, why did that happen? You know, now it's not, but
seems mean-spirited.
Yeah, but then the next episode, it's just the funniest crap I've ever watched. Like, I don't know, it's just super well written.
Yeah, I think that just speaks to like Bill Hader. Like, I've been watching him on Saturday Night Live for years. I definitely knew he was funny, but I had no idea that he had like these dramatic chops, and he's like bringing them both to the show. And I don't know if he specifically writes the character of NoHo Hank, but that is the best character in like all of TV. I love NoHo Hank. He never fails to make me laugh so hard.
Oh my god.
It's such a skillful balance of like drama and comedy. Like everyone brings it. Even Henry Winkler.
Yes.
Like he doesn't phone it in at all.
He's probably one of my favorite characters in the show. Like he's like number 2. Obviously, first character NoHo Hank. Second favorite character is Henry Winkler's character of Mr. Kazanow or
Cousineau?
Cousineau, yeah.
Yeah. Cousineau.
Oh yeah.
I think it's Gene Cousineau, right? I haven't seen the second season in a while, so I don't.
Gene M. Cousineau or Cousineau, whatever. But yeah, great show.
Very bingeable. Like, I definitely was hoping season 3 would be out this year, but you know, I guess I can wait.
Yeah, I mean, that season 2 cliffhanger though.
No spoilers.
No spoilers.
People, go watch.
Literally,
Barry, man, it's so good. I mean, speaking of great HBO shows, I've actually been watching one really recently that I was very late to get into. Have you heard of Euphoria?
It's on my watch list.
It's surprisingly good, and what I mean by that is like from the aesthetic, you would think it's Riverdale but like R-rated, you know?
Right.
But it's not quite like that. It's like more about addiction and the characters than it is about being like teen drama-y. Like, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of teen drama in the show, but it's more concerned with like the bigger stuff and like the characters, and I think it's one of the most tastefully done like looks at addiction that I've seen in a long time. And also it's one-derfully representative. Like, I think this is the first show I've seen where a transgender character is actually played by a transgender actress.
Oh, okay.
One of the main characters, Jules, is actually transgender and actually helped write a bunch of the episodes and executively produces the show. So it's a really engaging look at that. But this week they came out with a special for it, and this was filmed during COVID times. So this is actually really interesting. They like all took COVID tests, quarantined for 2 weeks, and then all went on set and filmed with like social distancing guidelines. And it's one of the best episodes of television I've seen in a really long time.
Really?
Like,
wow.
It's a bottle episode. Have you heard of this concept?
Yeah. Because I also saw you tweet about it. You were like, I forgot I was watching like this show, like that it was Euphoria, and I was like, that's cool. Like those episodes are rare and very far and few between in television. But yeah. I definitely need to watch it because you're not the first person to rave about it. I've seen some really good reviews on it.
It's very, very good, and this episode especially felt like a really well done play. Like the dialogue is just that good. I don't know, like if you're not watching Euphoria, that's some stuff I got to turn you on to. But like, I guess we're talking about television that's so good it could be film, like really well written. But I mean. Did you watch any movies this week, huh? I slacked a little bit.
So. So I slacked in the reason that if y'all are expecting us to review Mank yet, I have not watched Mank yet.
Oh, no. It just dropped, or did it drop like November 13th and like no one noticed? Like, when did it actually come out?
No, it actually came out like 3 days ago.
Okay.
So,
it's
like...
Just...
I don't know. It's Fincher, so I have to watch it. Like, I really want to watch it. And it's about Citizen Kane, like Herman J. Mankiewicz, I think is how you say it. Okay, cool. I didn't know if it was German, because if it was German, it would be pronounced Mankiewicz. But either way, I do want to watch it, and I'm going to watch it. But this week, or the past week mainly, I've watched Barry. I think I've really slacked this week, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think I've watched a movie. I know I have. Yes, I did. I watched oh my God, yes. Okay, I watched The Artist.
Oh, the like 2011 one?
Yes, that won Best Picture. It's all right. Like, it's not Best Picture. Well, when I was watching it, I was like, is this really like Best Picture worthy? But then I looked at what was nominated for Best Picture that year, and I was like, okay, yeah, well, out of the nominees, this is probably what I would wanted to win.
What else was nominated that year? I'm trying to remember.
So I'm pretty sure it was. Shoot, there were actually quite a bit nominated.
I remember, like when it won, it was very controversial. Like people were saying, like, is this really like because it's a film that was definitely accused of Oscar bait because it's black and white, it's silent.
About Hollywood.
It's about Hollywood, which the Oscars are infamously attracted to, like, giving awards to movie about Hollywood, which is why I'm so surprised that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood didn't really win anything this last year. That was kind of nuts.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. Because I really expected... There were a lot of people that thought that movie was going to win Best Picture.
Yeah, simply because...
it was Hollywood and it was Tarantino. And no, the Best Pictures for that year were The Descendants. Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close.
Oof.
Yeah, I've heard that's...
That one was extra Oscar bait.
Yeah. The Help, which... The Help's got its problems, obviously, but I enjoy The Help. Best Picture worthy, though? Probably not.
It's Best Picture that you saw in your 8th grade English class.
Exactly,
That's
right?
what it is.
Hugo, which was... Everybody knows that book as growing up, or at least I hope you do.
I actually didn't
You didn't
know
read
the
book
growing up. I just, saw the movie.
Really?
Like, and I didn't get it, really, like, when I saw it. It's been a long time, but, like... I just thought it was really into itself, like movies and stuff. Like,
I think it's so weird because Martin Scorsese directed it.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is he directing this type of film?
It's like his one kids movie, right?
Right.
Like, or does he have more?
No, that's like his only like kid-friendly movie.
I see why he did it though, because it's just like, oh, look how wonderful film is. And stuff.
True. The only other movie, I think the movie everybody wanted to win that year was Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life. Was that Terrence Malick, or did I say that?
Yeah, that was Terrence Malick.
Yeah, so, but...
Okay, of those options, The Artist is looking a little bit better. I think there was stuff that was snubbed, maybe, that people wanted to win. Because I remember Chris Stuckman talking about it and being like, yeah, this was Oscar bait that just won out this year.
Yeah. Well, what I think is really interesting about that year, we kind of got off into a rabbit hole, but that's okay. We're talking movies. What I think was weird was, Drive with Ryan Gosling. Nothing. Like, I'm sure it got nominated in some, but like for Best Picture, like, I don't know. When you think of 2011 movies, I think of Drive.
I do too.
Like, it's the most film that's ever filmed, honestly. Like,
I mean, it's got your like wannabe Tarantino dialogue and like the silky like 80s like soundtrack.
Yeah.
Like I really love that song. Real human.
yes,
It's so good.
it's stuck in your head really easily too.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, a lot of people call it like art house, like kind of boring trash, but I thought it had just the right amount of like excitement and character development. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
I love Drive. That's a really great movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, but
Right.
it's definitely a shame it got snubbed, but I can see why. Because it is pretty violent there. And
Yeah.
the Oscars don't love it when
They
you go
don't-
too far.
Yeah, they're into so specific.
Yeah, they're like, Tarantino, you're allowed to be violent.
Yeah.
Everyone else, maybe keep it more like drama.
Right,
character
yeah.
drama.
But no, yeah, but Drive's good. But yeah, I watched The Artist, and then yeah, that's just all that to say. I was thinking, I was like, where did this conversation even come from? But
I know.
I watched The Artist, and then immediately after, Donna got me to watch the Les Mis, the Hugh Jackman and Russell Crowe version that came out.
Yeah, I've got a bone to pick with that.
I know. It seems like everybody does. And honestly, I can see why. But at the same time, I'm just like, I don't watch musicals, really. Like, I hate musicals. La La Land gets a pass. But Les Mis, just for some reason, really just kind of got me. And I was like, this isn't horrible. Like, obviously everybody dogs on it for reasons and stuff, but I don't know, it was all right.
It's like Les Mis the movie is an acceptable version of that story if you've never seen the musical like on stage before.
Right.
I think. But the instant you see it, you'll see where they really went wrong. There's a great video essay on YouTube by this channel Sideways that talks about how the music is essentially like ruined by the film, and it's got a lot to do with the actors' choices. Like, Russell Crowe's the easy target because people very fairly point out that he isn't singing like at all. He's like talking through songs, and these are songs that you're supposed to belt, but it's like everyone. Like, Hugh Jackman does that a lot. Like, there are lines that are like belted in the stage show, and like when Hugh Jackman does it, he's like talking like this, which is to make it dramatic. But it just, like, detracts from the fact that it's supposed to be a song. Like, I don't know. It's really the music for me that ruins it. And then also, the cinematography for Les Mis, the film, is just so dingy and, like, gross. Like,
Oh,
I
yeah,
get
the
what he's
cinematography
going
is
for.
horrible.
I kind of hate it, though. Like, it looks disgusting.
Yeah.
And, like, I get that maybe that's supposed to be, like, more period representative, but I don't think that's what you do with the music in Les Mis. Like, I don't know, like, it's probably the look you go for if you're adapting Victor Hugo's work, like, from book to screen. But adapting a musical to the screen is, like, a very tricky thing to get right. And I think that in terms of that movie adaptation, they really messed it up. Like, I think that they left all the elements of the stage play that worked, of the musical that worked on the stage, and they didn't bring it over to the film, which is a darn shame because they tried a lot of tactics, like live scening, that just come across as gimmicky to me.
Yeah.
You know, like, why?
I couldn't honestly even tell the difference. Like,
No.
I never really know how they film musicals. I always assumed it was done post, but sometimes I'm like, do they actually sing? And like, while watching Les Mis, I'm like, they're definitely singing. Like, right now in my face, in the camera, they're singing. It didn't really make a difference to me. Like, it all felt really the same as any other musical I watch. Really, what bothers me about Les Mis is actually its story, which probably is nearly the same as the play. I know the movie adds some stuff.
I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've seen the movie version.
Yeah, I just think the whole love thing with what's the girl's name? The little girl. The whole point of the
Cosette.
Cosette.
Are you talking about the love triangle between Cosette
and
and
it's just so stupid to me. I'm like, I was invested in the movie like at the beginning because I thought that this was going to be like a redemption tale for Jean Valjean, and I was into that. And then, it just kind of switches gears like 2 or 3 times, because obviously it goes separated in like blocks of years, like, time passes, obviously. But then the movie at least spends at least an hour, on this love triangle that I am just not interested and I don't care about at all. Like, I would much rather watch the story of Jean Valjean and Russell Crowe's character, can't think of his name.
Oh, Javert.
Javert, yeah.
And I'm Javert.
And I'm Javert, yeah. I don't know. Some of the songs are kind of catchy too. I like the very first song.
Look Down.
Look Down. Love that song.
That's like my favorite musical, like up there with Hamilton and company. But I don't know. Like, I think that it's pretty similar to the structure of the story in the musical. So I'll say this. The book that they're adapting is one of the densest, like, works ever. Like, people usually say it's 3 Bibles long. And it's filled with, like, details that Victor Hugo has just thrown in about, like, French history. Like, when he's describing a street, like, suddenly it's like, oh, here's an important battle, like, that took place here, like, many years ago, and this is how it affected all this. All this to say, like, the street looked like that. Yeah. And I think what's so great about the musical is, like, it's not necessarily the most concise way to tell all of those details. Like, probably you could have taken those story elements and put them together in a different way, but it's not concerned so much about story structure. It's concerned about conveying through music, like, this story and all the emotions and the range of emotions you're supposed to feel. Which is why I think the film, when you watch it, you're going to notice those story flaws so much more, is because you're not feeling the emotion that the musical would usually force you to feel. I think that when you strip the show bare and put it on screen and you're like, look at it and look at its flaws and stuff, you're just not going to see as engaging of a story as you would see in your average movie. And that's because musicals aren't as interested in their stories. I think they're more interested in how the experience is.
Right. Valid point.
I know that we can't delve too much into musicals since you hate them.
Well, I mean, no, I would love to have an episode where we talk about musicals. Because, I mean, I say I hate musicals, but I've watched my fair share of musicals, and I want to watch more because it's something that I want to get into, but so far I've not been totally impressed with the work that I've seen. But I could just need to watch actual good musicals. Maybe I've been watching bad ones, but
yeah, I mean, to be fair, there's not a ton out there. Right. Like, most stage productions that are put to the screen aren't like super critically acclaimed. Like, it's typically like if a movie is made as a musical, that's when it works. Like Sound of Music. Well, Sound of Music was adapted from like a stage play, so I guess that's a good one. Any Disney movie that was created for its medium, so it's gonna work as a musical there. And then, ironically enough, they adapt the movie into a stage play later on, like Lion King. Like, then it becomes a cultural sensation on the stage.
Yeah. Really interesting.
Speaking of cultural sensations.
Okay.
Wait, I don't know if that's the way to introduce the stuff I want to talk about with you today. Speaking of movements.
Oh, God.
I know. Well, last week we kind of touched on like the alt-right's influence with the film Feels Good Man.
Feels Good Man, yeah.
Yeah, and that talked about like the alt-right like tainting things. The alt-right has actually become very prevalent in film criticism these days. And I
hate that, like that, like what you just said is true, but it makes me laugh and it kind of makes me mad at the same time.
It's like, it's hard to not laugh.
I know.
To use the word criticism would kind of be flattering,
right?
Like what it is the alt-right is very prominent in film whining. These days.
I was about to say they whine a lot.
Like, I think the start of 2020 was the perfect way to sum up the way that the alt-right is involved with film criticism. When Parasite won Best Picture, you can go online and there's that video of that guy complaining the whole time that it's a foreign film and the Best Picture should have gone to Joker. He admits He admits he has not seen the movie.
Yeah.
And then goes ahead and says that it's not worthy anyway. What's funny to me, though, is in that video, he's listing off all the movies. He's like, Little Women, American movie, that probably should have won. But I guarantee you, if Little Women had won Best Picture, that guy would have come on there and been like, what does Little Women have to say? Joker's the best movie ever made.
Little Women, it's feminist propaganda.
It is. And what I'm saying is, there's a movement that started back in 2015, although it was a little bit earlier than that, that's kind of taken a stance of anti-feminism. It's not necessarily, men's rights. It's more like, why are women on the screen so much? Do you remember Mad Max Fury Road?
Oh my God, do I? I have a very fond theater experience of Mad Max Fury Road.
I didn't get to see it in the
You didn't get to see it? Oh, it was beautiful. Me and my friends went and saw it twice.
I saw it on at home. My dad bought it on standard definition, so I don't know if that was the same. Sorry, Dad. Gotta shame you on the podcast.
I mean, hey, all my movies are standard definition anyway.
Oh, no.
So
it's just screens are getting a little too big for standard definition.
Honestly, yeah.
But this movement of Meninism.
Yeah. Such a funny word to say.
That's the word that they gave it, though.
Literally.
It's because they saw feminism and they were
exactly.
How can we put us in there? Meninism.
Meninism. It's such a stupid concept. What they say it is, what they say Meninism is basically we believe that men should have equal rights to women, and I'm like, you are just saying that you are a feminist, because that is exactly what feminist means.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just kind of flipped, that women should have the same rights as men. But that's their cover, basically, for what they actually, want to whine about.
It's a movement that's completely based in ignorance, because when it started up with Mad Max Fury Road, the article that kind of got this movement going was called, I am not going to see Mad Max Fury Road. Here's why. And it was an article all about how in the trailers, Charlize Theron's character, Furiosa, seems to have a lot of lines. And Mad Max doesn't seem to have a lot of lines.
He infamously has no lines.
He says, I have not seen the movie yet in this article.
Yeah.
But he goes on to explain that, it's supposed to be Mad Max's movie. Why is she talking so much? It looks like he only has cameo appearances. Feminism has ruined this movie. Which is funny that he's talking about the amount of lines Mad Max has. Mm-hmm. Because even in the original Mad Max trilogy, Mad Max, The Road Warrior, he has 16 lines throughout that whole movie. Mad Max is a silent protagonist for most of the movie.
Right.
Plot happens to him. It doesn't go the other way around. And it's the same in Fury Road. The story definitely takes a back seat to the action set pieces. It doesn't really end up mattering that Furiosa has more lines than Mad Max, because the same thing happens anyway. Vehicle chases, big explosions, practical effects on display. That's what those films are about.
Right.
But this article argues that by placing a woman as a central character, that the film is ruined. Before it's even begun, it's off on the wrong foot because it's taking away this role from a man. And then, to make matters worse, people who did see the movie came back and they offered up the criticism that Furiosa is simply too amazing and perfect, and where did she learn to do that? And a term that got very popular around that time and got even more popular with Rey from Star Wars is Mary Sue.
Mary Sue, yeah.
That's when you start hearing that a lot. And Mary Sue, the basic definition is a female character that is so perfect that she has no flaws whatsoever. And alt-right people typically use it to describe a trite movie, or this is SJW trash. Mm-hmm. Often you'll hear Mary Sue and SJW trash in the same sentence, you know? And that kind of baffles me that this has picked up steam, because it's still happening. Yeah. Wonder Woman, Captain Marvel, all of the following Star Wars movies.
Yeah,
like, anything that you see that comes out with like a woman in the lead role, it often gets like dogpiled on. And I kind of wanted to talk about like some instances where, you know, maybe criticism of the writing of the characters may be welcome, and instances where this is just clearly blatant sexism that's kind of snuck into the world of film criticism, and it's
definitely
had a huge effect on people. So I kind of wanted to jump in. I haven't seen Fury Road all that much that I can talk about it, but I kind of wanted to jump into the character of Rey, who I think is the biggest example of these people's like targets of attack. And I wanted to ask you, just honestly, you don't have to like try and appease me here, because I guarantee you I might end up having some similar thoughts. But what do you think about the character of Rey?
I have an interesting, or maybe not interesting is not the word. I have an opinion about like. So it's weird because to jump as a jumping off point into Rey, the movies that the Meninists criticize have a right to be criticized, but they are criticizing them for the wrong reasons, in my opinion. So, for example, you know, Star Wars. It's not the best written, like, start to a sequel trilogy. It's basically riffing off A New Hope, and, you know, maybe a lot of people like that. The character of Rey, I think, is a consequence of a man writing the story.
Yes.
Not saying that men can't write women characters. Not saying that at all. I'm saying...
I was actually going to say maybe they can't later.
But, I mean, I've seen movies written by men where women characters are written very awesome. But it seems to me that in Hollywood, they can't, like Hollywood, people who write movies that, like, for blockbusters, women are all written the same. And I think Rey is sort of a weaker character that because, you know, that she was written by J.J. Abrams and probably like a bunch of other like men. But to say that she has no flaws that's like a lot of the arguments I heard. It's like, Rey has no flaws. You know, she had no Jedi training, and all of a sudden she's this big, you know, whoop-de-doo. And I'm like, okay, she does have a flaw. She has a couple of flaws, but the Jedi training stuff can easily be explained away, I think, because I'm pretty sure the character of Luke was the same way. There are a lot of men characters in pop culture and in popular movies that you could basically call a Mary Sue if we're going by their rules.
I think most superhero films are male examples of Mary Sues. Like, Captain America takes steroids and now he's like perfect in every way. Like, and I get that but that's the thing is it's explained away with like, oh, he takes the serum and he's amazing now. Why is it so hard to accept when it comes to female characters put in that same like fantastical action role that they can be capable of that? Like, I think the most common thing I hear when it comes to Rey from Star Wars is like, oh, there should have been training. It should have showed her training. Yeah. I think that sounds like a horrible...
That sounds so boring.
A very boring movie. Like,
if you think about it, even in Empire, the training with Yoda on Dagobah was only like... It took up 10 minutes of the movie, not even.
And honestly, it's not the training that even mattered. It's those character moments between Luke and Yoda and like the revelation about like not being ready and like him going into the cave and like fighting himself. Like, it's... You hardly see him train. And I mean, obviously, people like to bring up the point that Luke is even told, like in that movie, like, you haven't trained enough. You're not ready to fight Darth Vader, and he loses. You know, he gets his ass handed to him. Yeah. But the same thing happens to Rey. You know.
Right.
And this is maybe a weaker aspect of the writing in Last Jedi that people should be criticizing, because it's just Luke's character arc again. She goes to train with Luke. She gets emotional and wants to like help Kylo Ren convert to the light side, and she goes off, and Luke's like, you're not ready, this is not going to go the way you think. And she shows up, and sure enough, she also gets her ass handed to her by Snoke, who's there, and he's just chilling, and you know, he like lifts her around, plays with her, and then he's like, go kill him, Kylo Ren. And Adam Driver's like, no.
No. No, I don't wanna.
I want to get my Adam Driver down.
But yeah, I think.
But like, it's the same situation.
Yeah.
But you know, where in Empire you're okay with it.
Yeah.
In Last Jedi, suddenly that's like too much for you.
Right.
You know?
And we're not saying that it's like. I'm not saying that they are well-written movies by any means. I'm saying though that the same flaws that are prevalent in the sequel trilogy are the same writing problems that are prevalent in the original trilogy, because they're riffing off of each other, especially The Force Awakens. I mean, my God, it's just A New Hope. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to criticize it, you just criticize the writing of, George Lucas for the original trilogy. He's the one who basically, he wrote that stuff, and JJ, all he's doing is copying, and all he did was literally gender swap who was in the, the main role.
Mm-hmm. And it speaks volumes that, like, the instant you gender swap it...
Oh, yeah.
Like, the criticism that starts coming in. Like, where were you guys before when these problems already existed in the male archetype of this character?
And you just ignored it because Star Wars, like...
And I'm not saying that, like, everyone who has problems with the character of Rey is sexist. Like,
no.
I'm going to say this right now. I think it's a very wooden and stale character.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And, like, I think all the potential that I saw in her was definitely squashed by the end of that trilogy, because I think, annual weekly hating on Rise of Skywalker time.
Yeah, here we go. What's new this week?
We talk about it every week, but how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? But in that movie, she shows up and some more time has passed, and she is like Jesus, like,
literally.
She can bring people back from the dead, and like, it's not really talked about. And I'm not saying the answer is like show training montages and have a scene where Rey says, "Oh, and then I learned how to bring people back to life with the Force." Like, no, that's not the problem there. The problem there is like, relative to like what we've seen this character do, this just doesn't make sense to suddenly be a thing that's happening. And like, you can say a few years has passed, but you got to give us more than what you're saying and showing. Like, all we see her doing at the beginning of the movie is floating off the ground and chopping a couple trees over, and then suddenly it's plot armor, I think, is the problem that I have with her. Is like, I never once felt that she was at risk, because never once in the whole trilogy does she get a scratch on her. And that's not the character's fault. That's the writer's fault. Honestly, they don't have stakes. And therefore the character doesn't have stakes.
I honestly think, and this might be a hot take, I don't know. I think Finn's character is written relatively well in the sequel trilogy, because this is a character that I did fear for his life in two instances.
Yeah.
In both movies. The Rise of Skywalker, obviously not, because it's a dog shit movie. But the first movie, you're presented with this character who's a stormtrooper, and he
which, by the way, speaking of Finn being a stormtrooper, that was another big branch of this alt-right movement, is the instant a black stormtrooper was in that teaser trailer, people lost their minds.
Exactly.
And were like, what? I just wanted to say that really quick.
I know, and I was
actually character of controversy.
I was about to mention that, actually, because I was about to say, I was like, I think they freaked out about Finn being black too, which is just, it amazes me. But either way, what I'm saying is, he has he's a stormtrooper, and he's got this conviction of, I shouldn't be killing, and that's something we've never seen in the Star Wars universe up until now. Maybe in the books or something that might have happened, but in Star Wars trilogy, Star Wars media, we've never seen that. And I liked his character from the get-go. Like, I don't understand why that same kind of energy and like writing in Finn's character cannot be transferred over to our main character. Mm-hmm. It goes for any character, no matter if it's a woman or anything. Like, that's the criticism I have, is like, I like this character, I think he's well written, why isn't our main character well written? And I guess our point really is that, like, the writing problems have been there, but just because they gender swapped the roles, the Meninists thought it was because they made a woman that, the writing of the character sucks, and that's just not the case.
I think what I think transitions from Star Wars to like a lot of the other movies that I kind of want to talk about is that it's the Hollywood element that comes into a problem here. I think one of the most controversial blood-raising movies that's come out in the past few years was the Ghostbusters.
Oh my God,
reboot.
Yeah.
And
I thought I would never hear the end of that discourse. It's still going on too, I think.
It's still kind of happening. Yeah. I mean, you bring it up and people are going to have thoughts
Oh,
still.
Definitely.
The problem there is, obviously a lot of people knee-jerk reaction was, wow, they're rebooting Ghostbusters with an all-female cast. How pointless. This is terrible. I hate it. Mm-hmm. And, no one's seen the movie yet. But I think, to be fair, in that instance, a lot of people see those trailers they start coming out with, and you've got Melissa McCarthy screaming and Leslie Knope slapping. No, not Leslie Knope. Wait,
Leslie.
What? I can't get Leslie Knope out of my head. Oh no, Parks and Rec, you ruined me. Wait.
Oh God.
It's Leslie. Oh my God, she's on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. What? No. Kate. Isn't Kate McKinnon in this?
There's Kate McKinnon. There's Kristen Wiig, and there's...
Hold on, I got it pulled up right here.
Okay.
Leslie Jones.
Leslie Jones.
Yeah.
I heard that own in that nope. I can't explain it away. I don't know why I couldn't think of Leslie Jones' last name. But you've got her slapping Melissa McCarthy, and that's the joke. And people are like, oh.
What is that?
Uh-oh. All right, gonna be honest. Phone started going off in the background of that last conversation. So we had to pause for a minute, but we're back.
Better than ever.
Better than ever, yeah. So we were talking about Ghostbusters, the 2016 one. And I think in that instance that, people seeing the trailer, I don't think they could be faulted for thinking that maybe the movie was just going to be bad.
Yeah.
Based off of the content in the trailer. I think that is where there's kind of a muddied line here, where there's genuinely sexist people, but then on the other side there's people who genuinely think the movie's going to be bad, and in the middle you have a bit of a mess when you're trying to figure out and distinguish who's who. And there's this really terrible article about a YouTuber I respect. His name's James Rolfe, and he posted a video that was I don't want to see the new Ghostbusters because it's disrespectful to the old cast member Harold Ramis who died. And The Guardian, I think, published an article about how he's horribly sexist and ignorant.
Yeah.
And I think that's where this is what fuels the Meninists a little bit, is when you just bandwagon on people and call them sexist like that, you're just going to get folks riled up, and it's not even necessarily the truth of the matter. I don't think that James Rolfe is sexist. I really do think that he just didn't want to see the movie because he didn't think it was going to be a good movie.
Yeah.
And I saw Ghostbusters 2016 in the theaters, and let me tell you, it's a pretty terrible movie. It's really bad. Did you see it?
No, I didn't see it, and I fully had intentions to, but I'm kind of that group of people that saw the trailer and just thought it was just. I think it's pointless to reboot Ghostbusters, and then with them rebooting it and then making it the full women cast. I wasn't necessarily bothered by that. I just thought okay, well, I know what they're trying to do. It's cool. But then the content of all the trailers that I watched and all the clips that I watched, I was like, this is simply just not funny to me, really. And also as a huge fan of the first two original Ghostbusters movies, I would just rather not see that series brought back at all, really. Even the newest Ghostbusters Afterlife, I'm not totally on board with at all either.
It sounds really dumb.
It sounds, it's like if they're basically just going the kid route. They're well, we tried rebooting it. Why don't we do a sequel with kids? And I'm I don't want to freaking see that either. You don't understand. I don't want to see any more iterations of Ghostbusters. I want my first two movies and that's it. So, but then there was the whole discourse, of course, Discourse, of course. With like I got on YouTube and I started seeing all these videos about like the new Ghostbusters is gonna suck, and I'm like, yeah, it is, because it's pointless and we don't need this reboot. And then I click on the video and they're talking about how it's a women cast, and I'm like, that's not why it's gonna suck. What are you doing? What are you doing?
And I think with Ghostbusters, and I hate to throw anyone under the bus for that train wreck, because I'm sure a lot of people are responsible for it, but I think that's an instance where I really truly think that males are not often the best people to put in charge of women characters, because I think that they don't get like how to write for that type of character, for that audience. I mean, for women in general. And it's like, the problem with Ghostbusters is like, it's all this like random like slapstick that they think people liked from Bridesmaids. It's just a bunch of stuff that's like, clearly they're throwing it at the wall and hoping it sticks and trying to appeal to this audience, but like no women like helped write that. Like, I think Melissa McCarthy improvised a lot of her stuff. I think the cast like improvised amongst each other, and some of that's probably the funnier material in the movie. I'm gonna be real, I don't really like it when Melissa McCarthy improvs in a movie. I don't think she's especially funny at it, but I mean, I respect that more than whatever crap they were given honestly, in the script.
Because Melissa McCarthy is actually a great actress.
Yeah.
Because I watched Can You Ever Forgive Me?
Is that the one that's pretty dramatic?
Yeah, it's a total drama about the woman that forged documents, like handwriting documents from famous like people. She did amazing in that movie, like totally stellar. And then you compare that to her work in like Ghostbusters and like Tammy, God forbid. It's just not good. And that's what we're talking about with the valid criticisms of these movies that get totally fogged up by this movement of people that are just like the women they suck, they're tearing it apart, and you're like, no.
I think that this is just like this is the base of the movement, is that people have started believing that actors are somehow responsible for the quality of the product. Like, people dogpiling on the actress who played Rose in The Last Jedi. Like
horrible things said to her, by the way. That was just a bad thing.
They bullied her off of social media. Meanwhile, she did not write a line of dialogue
literally
for Star Wars, and like literally has only ever been a pleasant human being in public. Like, I don't understand how this came to be, and that's why this movement infuriates me so much. Is like, people will dogpile on anyone, just for being a woman in the lead role. And people like try and justify it with like Brie Larson, because she's calling people out on their crap. Like, I like Brie Larson. She is a great actress. I don't think Captain Marvel is a very good movie.
No.
But I don't think that has anything to do with Brie Larson being in the lead role, because I know she's got charisma and I know she's a great actress. That's, again, another example of a male team not knowing how to push forward a superhero. And I think, we're talking about these like bad like examples of characters, and like maybe where criticism is not like necessarily unjustified. But I kind of want to talk about when I think female characters taking the center stage really works, and I think it's most often when a woman writes the character. Like, some of the best characters I'm thinking about right off the top of my head, Hermione Granger, written by J.K. Rowling, Katniss Everdeen, written by Suzanne Collins. Like, these characters who are women, who are written by actual women, often end up being like actually developed, and people complain less too. Like, did you ever hear anyone complain about Katniss being the main character in Hunger Games?
No, I never heard that. I never heard any complaining about Hermione, about Katniss, about like anything where like the source material that they're pulling from is either written by a woman, or it's always been a woman, then transferring it over. I hear nothing, like crickets, because they're just, I don't know. I think they're solid characters. Yeah.
And I think Hermione is a really good example of like what we're getting at with like, you know, male like perfection in movies, and like, you know, this amazing main character is like doing everything perfectly. Hermione is a really good example of a character who is definitely at an elevated skill level. You know, like Hermione is always the one that they go to if they've got some kind of problem, they don't know how to solve it. Hermione usually has like a solution. Yeah. And people are like chill with it. Like, I guess what I think works about Hermione is that she's well-rounded in other ways. Like, she's like amazing and perfect at like school, but then, you know, J.K. Rowling's taken great care to show like her pride, or like her unwillingness to take risks in a lot of instances. Like, it's just a well-rounded character. And I think when a male writes a character, often if they have good intentions, they want to make that perfect female, you know, that has no flaws. That's not interesting. Yeah. You know, Captain Marvel isn't interesting for that reason. Right. She has no flaws.
She has no flaws whatsoever, yeah.
And that's what I think about male characters too. You know, you have no flaws whatsoever. I think the overcompensation of, oh, look, a woman's in the lead role, I'm going to make her amazing, is just as harmful as sidelining women completely. You know? Because you're giving fuel to this movement to be like, women can't be interesting, because they can, and they are often very compelling. Right. I think Hollywood is just where it gets mucked up a lot.
Honestly, yeah. Because I think, like I mentioned, Frances Ha, it's directed by a man, but co-written by Greta Gerwig herself. And that is like one of the most charming, funny, endearing women characters I've seen on screen, like, ever.
She just feels like a real person.
She feels so real. Exactly.
Like, I think Frances is like slowly becoming maybe one of my favorite like film characters, because it just feels like maybe it was based on a book, because it's just rich, like the character development in that movie, like, and it's such a short film too. Frances Ha is only like an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah. It's every minute's well spent, you know?
Yeah.
And I think I love that about Greta Gerwig too, is that she's another woman that we can talk about who writes phenomenal female characters. Like, I know you don't like Lady Bird as much, but I'm a very big fan of the characterization in Lady Bird, and especially in Little Women. Yeah. Like, I think that's an adaptation that handles its characters so perfectly, because Jo March is this great example of like someone who has incredible skill and ability, and if you give the situation that they're in stakes and you round the character with flaws, you know, like, that's what people want to see. And I think that Greta Gerwig is one of those leaders in feminist filmmaking right now. Like, it may not like seem much, she only has 2 films under her belt, but they both have raised such, you know, praise and acclaim. And like, Little Women being a hit is actually a huge deal. Yeah. Like, period pieces, they're never female-led cast pieces just aren't at the forefront right now. And
she managed to take both of those, make it insanely interesting and like very endearing, and got not only the kind of the Oscar audience, like the Academy audience, you know, film people like us to be interested. Also got the mainstream audience, people who only see Hollywood blockbusters. You know, a lot of people went and saw this movie, Little Women, and it was basically universally like praised, and for good reason.
What the tomato meter is on that.
I think it's like I think it's 90 something. But no, for good reason, because the movie is absolutely phenomenal. I love it. It was my girlfriend's favorite movie of 2019. Probably one of her favorite movies ever. Like, it's really good.
It's so good. It's got a 95.
95,
and it's got 408 reviews from critics. And the audience score is also fantastic. That's a 92%. So even amongst, you know, your like diehard, like, I'm not really into this kind of movie people, they like it. You know, they're going to see it.
I wasn't interested in it, honestly. Like, really? When we went, when we saw it, me and Donna spent, it was January 1st, 2020. We had no idea. We were trying to bring in the new year we spent the whole day in the movie theater, and we saw like 3 movies. and one of them was Little Women, and it was actually the movie that I was the least excited for that day because I knew Greta Gerwig directed it, and I knew that I didn't like Lady Bird as much, and we were just I was kind of like, but I got in there and I was like, by the end of the movie, I was like in tears, like walking out, like I want to watch that again immediately. And it's the product of having a woman basically like lead the entire project and know exactly how to write or how to adapt the characters. It's simple math that Hollywood has to do. I think these films like which this is a weird one, the newest Charlie's Angels
I never
movie.
saw it.
Okay, understandably, obviously,
this is directed and written by Elizabeth Banks, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, so.
It's horrible. Like, just like horrible in the sense that like valid criticisms. Like, I think the tomato meter for that movie is just bad, and like everybody that went and saw it, they're like, it's just bad. And that's weird because we have an instance where the characters, it's written and directed by Elizabeth Banks, but I think it's a side effect of trying to make Charlie's Angels, when it was a show, was all about like basically over sexualizing the women.
Yeah,
women with guns. That's the thing that men want to see.
And like the movie's trying to counteract that.
It's trying to counteract that, but by doing way too much. Like I haven't seen the movie, but from what I've read about it, it's very just. I'm pretty sure like at least like a couple of the women in the movie are LGBT, and so they really play into that.
I think
and
Kristen Stewart is supposed to be
right. So I think what they tried to do is kind of reverse it on the men that like watch the movie, like men who watch this movie to see like sexualized women. They're like, they're gay, so what are you gonna do now? But then the movie, the writing is just sort of poo poo papa that it. What she tried to what she tried to do is now like null and void because the movie was so awful that and because it's over the top like that. It's just a very threatening movie, honestly, and I think it made a lot of people not want to see it. And obviously the Meninists, they had a hell of a time with that one. That was on the YouTube feed forever.
I think that one is definitely very interesting because on my feed, like, it was a lot of like female YouTube critics that were laying into it, and I haven't seen the movie, but I'm starting to think it must be for pretty good reason that it's just a shoddy like film. And I think that goes to show that the solution isn't like, oh, only women are allowed to write female characters and direct female-led movies, because I do not think that's the answer. I don't think it's that simple. Like, I think Patty Jenkins made a pretty great movie with Wonder Woman, but I don't think it's simply because she is a woman, and that's why Captain Marvel is bad, because it's directed by like a male duo or anything. Like, I don't think there's correlation there, and I think it would be a bit naive to say that. But what I am saying is we've got to step it up a little bit. We've got to really like try to not go to our old crutches, and like I think there are male authors who I really respect who are on the right track with this. I want to give a caveat here to George R.R. Martin, because I think that he writes very engaging, powerful female characters, but I think that the problem is he's still obsessed with the sexual aspect. Yeah. Like, or at least in the books. Like, I think in the show they actually did a great job kind of counteracting some problems in the source material. In the books, there are great characters like Daenerys Targaryen, Sansa Stark, Arya Stark, Cersei Lannister. Like, they're all very powerful and rounded and have flaws and like goals, and it's very interesting to watch. But the problem is that each character, he's got to devote this like needless like sexuality like aspect to. Like, there's like at least 3 different instances where like he's caused like his own lesbian fetish to be pushed onto the girl characters. Like, there's a chapter where Sansa's like, oh, and yes, and I play kissing with this other girl in the court, and we're getting good at it. We started using our tongues, and like, it's just gross to see this like male author like put that on that character, like Daenerys, a 13-year-old girl in the books, talking about how she's like being felt up by her female maid, and it like doesn't serve to develop the character or anything. It just feels like male sexual fantasy. Although I guess you could say like fantasy is a bit masturbatory as a genre anyway, right?
Definitely. That's what always throws me off about the fantasy genre. Like, even though I like fantasy films, you know, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, Harry Potter, even, like, there's always this element to where I'm like, somebody out there right now is writing a adult fan fiction of this material, and it's like, it's the genre where women, I think, are sexualized the most. Besides the action, like, movie, like, that sort of subgenre there, fantasy is just over-sexualization of anything feminine. It's super weird.
Everyone's got to be, like... Every woman who appears in fantasy has got to be, like, a beautiful, like, goddess and stuff. Like, I don't think that you could have an equivalent to a character like Tyrion for women in fantasy, because the instant that a woman is like ugly or deformed or anything,
she's like a witch.
People don't want to write about that. Like, literally, I think in Game of Thrones, like, the character of Melisandre, like, she takes off her necklace and she's ugly and old and shit, but no one would ever write about an old ugly witch. You know, they want to see this hot, sexy, takes off her top, like, witch, and that's like what the male fantasy writer is concerned about. Like, I truly can't think of like any fantasy writer other than J.K. Rowling, who's a woman who writes about characters who are remotely unattractive. And even then, Hermione Granger was taken from the book as being a buck-toothed girl and not as pretty. And I mean, I think Emma Watson's amazing, so this is not a bash on her, but like, turned into a conventionally attractive woman, you know, like,
and she was so over sexualized by everybody throughout the in the movies, at least, but not in the books,
as she got older, you know.
Definitely, as she got older.
I definitely think it started from an innocent place, like in Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone as it should be called, because that's the real name of the book. You know, she's an 11-year-old actress. No one's going there yet. It's just sad to see by the time she reached her later teens, like, you know, all you can see of her is like her, like, male gaze just like creeping up on poor Emma Watson. And, like, people literally are just always talking about like, oh, Hermione's so hot. That's like, I get it. I had a crush on Hermione. But, like,
everybody did, probably.
Yeah, that's like our childhood like crush growing up. But that doesn't mean that was the only thing of value of that character. And like, I think the grander point was like, there's not an ugly woman in fantasy, and I think that still holds, that like, people just aren't interested in a woman if she can't be sexually desirable or like amazing, like a goddess, you know. Like, you have to have those elements, or else this woman character won't be included,
right? You
know,
which is absolutely repulsive.
Like, it is repulsive.
I think another thing with like the Meninist argument, there was a video that I saw where this guy, I don't remember the YouTube channel name, but he was talking about, he's like, so what happens when feminists make a film? He's like, well, it's bad and it's Charlie's Angels. And I'm like, please stop. Like, you have no, and this is what we're talking about with the just so uneducated in film, not well versed in like anything to do with film, and they're saying, like, I can like name off the top of my head like 5 feminist movies that you've probably never heard of because they weren't, you know, blockbusters. There are feminists making movies every single day, and they are amazing. Greta Gerwig and making Little Women and Lady Bird being like 2 of them. You know, they just don't know what they're talking about, and they're using their misguided rage at their beloved characters being flipped, gender swapped, or new movies. Just, it's not what I heard one time talking about Lady Bird, the reason I don't like Lady Bird as much, I'm not saying it's a bad film. I don't like it because personally I cannot relate to anything in that movie. And I was talking with somebody and it was a girl and she's like, well, that's okay. She's like, it wasn't made for you. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. The movie wasn't made. It wasn't aimed at me, my target demographic. So really I shouldn't be going online and bitching about it, which I didn't do, but I'm saying that's what everybody else is doing. Like, if it doesn't concern you, leave it be. If you have valid criticisms of a film, be my guest. Like, we have our valid criticisms of Star Wars and Ghostbusters and Charlie's Angels and every, movie that comes out. But you can't just sit around and scream at the screen because women are in the film.
You can't cherry pick films that, like, help your point. Like,
exactly.
I think the silence around a movie like Booksmart when it comes out from, like, the Meninists crowd speaks volumes. Because they're not interested in, like, actually engaging in film criticism or, like, pointing out when a movie is really well done. Because, let me tell you, Booksmart is one of the funniest movies that's come out in a long time. And it's got those two very charming actresses at the front. No names at the time it came out. Yeah. I think... I still don't know their names. I think of the characters from Booksmart. Because every time I see... the main character's like best friend in a show, I'm like, oh my god, that's her, yeah. It's that girl from Booksmart. And
yeah.
Even the boy in that movie who owns like the cruise ship and stuff,
yeah.
I'm always like, oh, it's that boy from Santa Clarita Diet. Yeah. Like, I don't know anyone's name in that movie.
Right.
I just know that Olivia Wilde knocked it out of the park directing and writing that movie. And the Meninists and the right wing, they're silent because they don't want to actually talk about movies that are done well. They don't want to talk about equal opportunity. They want to whine when it's convenient for them. And I think that's the whole problem here is, like, it's okay to have problems with a female-led movie.
Yeah.
But you need to acknowledge when you actually have problems with the movie versus when you have problems with the situations that are being shown on screen being something that's not for you.
Yeah.
Just admit that, like, you don't like that movie because it's not made for you. You know? Like, it doesn't... Not every Hollywood action movie or comedy needs to be made for men. Because we already have so many. It's ridiculous.
We have an absolutely astoundingly large catalog of movies just for men. And you can watch any of them.
Specifically white men. You know?
Yes.
White men will never run out of films that represent them. If you started watching every movie ever made today, you would be still watching them on your deathbed. And you still wouldn't be out of white male-led films, you know?
Yeah.
So the argument that this is like some kind of movement that is putting an end to the white male film-going experience is ridiculous. Yeah. Just look at last year. Joker grossed $1 billion.
Mm-hmm.
Joker. It's not even like a superhero movie. It's like a subpar character R-rated movie that is disguised.
I like to say it's a pool disguised as an ocean. Like, it's like, of course, you'd think of pool Steve if you've never seen an ocean. Yeah, exactly.
As Drake once said.
Yes, Drake.
Drake also problematic, but we can't get into that
anyway. But no, I see what you're saying. Like, and even then, Joker was nominated for Best Picture. I mean, these movies aren't like that the Meninists like most align themselves with. I guess they're not going anywhere. No. Okay, all we're trying to do is include more diversity, more more women-led films, more ethnic films, more films with like black people in the lead.
There's
as
nothing
the stars.
Wrong with a person of color or a woman being in the lead role. Like, I guarantee you, there will still be like a sassy white friend character that the producers want in the film anyway. So don't fret. You still have representation. White males, like it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and literally.
I just think it's ridiculous that we've been pretending like it's changing since 2015. And if you look at the top grossing movies that have come out in the past few years, it clearly has not changed. Mm-mm. You know, And I guess that's the main thing I want to say is like, yo, shut up.
Yeah. Yeah, stop talking. I enjoy film criticism. I like talking about like actually engaging with film. But it really makes me mad that movement has picked up so much steam that's what people call engaging with the film and talking and whining about who's in our lead, the main character. And that's just really stupid. But that's our soapbox for this week. Hopefully everybody agrees with us. I don't think we said anything too hot of a...
I don't think it's too hot of a take to be on the right side of history, man.
Literally.
I guess, if you want to talk with us about film, just make sure you've seen the darn film in the first place and don't just be whining because it doesn't fit your views. Anyway, getting off the soapbox now. We're done. Hopefully you like what you heard. Again, if you want to comment down below, like what you would like to hear in the future, we're always reading that.
please do, because we have a bunch of topics lined up. We're not going to run out of content anytime soon. But what's the point of doing this if it's not something that our audience wants to hear? So if you want to hear us talk about something, if you have any ideas, swing them over, put them in the comments, send us a DM, something.
Mm-hmm. We'd love to cover it. Anything you guys want to listen to. And again, thank you so much for listening to Mind Over Movies. Yeah. We're fairly new at this, but it's been fun for us so far.
Yeah. Having a grand old time, and we're gonna keep doing this for as long as we're living, hopefully. So, I guess we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah. And see you next week, guys.
And remember.
Keep the spirit
alive.
Film.
There
was Goodbye. The most intense, like, bye.